there, welcome to another lecture. Today I will be discussing the formatting guidelines for the writing of the research paper. So later on, you will be writing your research paper. These are the guidelines by which you can follow as you write your paper. If you can still recall, here is the complete research paper contents. It will start with the preliminary pages, which is composed of the following, followed by the chapter 1, which is basically the problem and its background. Then chapter 2, where you will present theoretical background and literature review. Chapter 3, which consists of research design, research flow design conceptualization, the methods of fabrication, simulation or programming, methods of testing and experimentation, the methods of data collection and analysis. Then this will be followed by chapter 4, which is the results and discussion. Then chapter 5, which consists of the summary, conclusion, and recommendation. And finally, we have the bibliography, where you will present the references that you use all throughout your paper and the various parts of the appendices, which we will also have a separate discussion on. So for this content, if you can notice, there are some parts that has asterisk. So this means that these parts which has asterisk, these are required for the writing of your proposal. It means that these are the things or the content that should be presented as part of your proposal paper. So you have to check back those parts which has asterisk, just like this: tables, figures, computations, bill of materials, implementation Gantt chart, raw data, the Turnitin report, which is per chapter, pattern search report. Each of these, as well as the curriculum vitae, should be part of the research proposal. The outline of my presentation. First, we will have the general guidelines, followed by the preliminary pages, textual presentation, table presentation, figure presentation, equation presentation, pagination, appendix presentation, references presentation, and the in-text citation. Here are some general guidelines. So it means that all of these guidelines should be used throughout the whole research paper. Although there will be deviations later on, deviations from these provisions that stated here in the general guidelines must be stated in the specific sections of the research paper. So for the paper size and dimension, it should be letter size. And for the page margin, the measurement of the page margin should follow the following. We have for the top 1 inch, bottom 0.5 inch. The right part of your paper should be 1 inch and the left part should be 5 inches. For the font characteristics, unless otherwise stated, the following font characteristics shall be applied to the whole paper. So for the face, size, color, style, scale, spacing, and position, it is shown here in this current slide. Unless otherwise stated, all paragraphs shall be justified. It means that they shall be aligned to both the left and the right margins. So all of these are part of the general guidelines. It means that all this applies to all parts of the paper, whether it's in the preliminary pages, chapter 1, chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, the bibliography, and the appendices. Now let's move forward to the preliminary page. These are the pages that should be found in your preliminary pages. You have the title page, approval sheet, abstract, acknowledgement, table of contents, list of tables, and list of figures. For your project proposal, it's okay that you don't have to present yet the abstract as well as the acknowledgement. but for the rest, it should be found in your project proposal. Each preliminary page, take note, shall be started on a new page, regardless of the space left in the previous page. So it means that the title page must be on a separate page with the approval sheet. In the same way, the abstract should be on a separate page from the approval sheet, and so on and so forth. Each of these pages should have a unique page in your paper. Whether there's a lot of space left, don't worry about that. You still have to follow these guidelines. So let's discuss each of these. So for the title page, it should contain the following information: the full research title, statement of submission, the degree, the full name of the authors, and the date of manuscript submission. Take note to capitalize each word on the title page, except articles like a and the. Like also except prepositions like with, in, of, by, on, or conjunctions such as and or but. Information shall be center aligned in your title page. The title page number shall have imaginary page numbers. It means that there should be no page number found in your title page. The research title shall be boldface and be laid out in an inverse pyramid manner. The first line of the title page shall be positioned at the topmost line of the title page. The statement of submission, on the other hand, shall be stated according to the format and layout illustrated later on a figure. The first line of the statement of submission should be positioned about 3 spaces below the research title. So below the research title, 3 spaces should there should be 3 spaces before you start the statement of submission. The degree shall be in boldface and in a single line only. Your name as author shall be written in boldface, the first name first, followed by the middle name, not the middle initial, and then the surname. For multiple authors, write the names in alphabetical order of the family name. Also, the thesis advisor is included as author. The first line of the author's name should be positioned about 3 spaces below the degree. And for the month and year of completion should be written 1 space below the last line of the author's name. The date shall correspond to the month and the year when the grade of your grade in this proposal or full research paper is encoded by your thesis instructor. Illustrate how the title page looks like. So this is how it looks like. So you can follow this formatting in writing the title page. So you have here the title in inverted pyramid format. The first line of the title is in the first line also of the page. And 3 spaces below that where you start the statement of submission. And then you have the course, the major of the researchers, and then the researchers arranged in alphabetical order on the surname. And finally, the date of submission or the date where your grade is encoded. For the approval sheet, the word approval sheet shall not appear in the paper. The approval sheet shall be introduced with a paragraph stating your thesis proposal or thesis paper. So if you're still writing the thesis proposal, you have to use the word thesis proposal. But when it is a thesis paper, you should use the word thesis paper. It should contain the following information: the full title of the study, full name of the author with the middle initial, the degree. The first line of the introductory paragraph shall be indented 1/2 inch to the right. The paragraph shall be double-spaced and shall be written according to the format illustrated in the succeeding example in the next. The name of the signatory shall be written in full with the middle initial and in uppercase letters. Also for consistency, titles like Professor, Engineer, Doctor, Mr., PhD shall not be included in the signatory's name. Also for consistency, the following terms shall be used to indicate the designation of the signatory. The signatory's date, name, and designation shall also be properly aligned. A sample approval sheet looks like. So again, the word approval sheet shall not appear in this page, and you should use here thesis if this is a final thesis paper. But if you're still writing your proposal, you should use thesis proposal. Now for the abstract, just like what I said, for the proposal writing, you are not yet required to include the abstract, but for the final paper, you should include the abstract. So the abstract shall be positioned at the topmost line of the page, center aligned, and in capitalized case and bold letters. The first line of the abstract statement shall be positioned one space below the title abstract. Also take note that there is a maximum words for the abstract. It should not be more than 250 words. You can follow the IMRAD format in writing the abstract. It means you can write a sentence or two about what you are investigating about, what your study is all about, followed by M, which is the methodology that you use to investigate that topic, and then R, which is the results of your investigation based on your methodology. You highlight the result and discuss the implication of those results. So that your abstract will not be more than 250 words. Also, it shall be double spaced, intended 1/2 inch, justified, and limited to one paragraph only. And one space below the abstract statement is your keywords. Think of a keywords as, say, for example, you are the one searching for a research paper. Think of words that would make it for you or for another person to search your paper online. So use these keywords in the keyword section of your abstract. So to give you so this is an illustrated example of the abstract. So you have there the word abstract, one space below that, you start writing the abstract. So as you can see, this is just one paragraph, maximum 250 words, highlighting the things that you're investigating, the methods that you use in the investigation, the results of your investigation, and the implications of those results. And for the keywords, you just simply write those words that will make it easier for someone to search your paper in online databases. The acknowledgement is also not a requirement for the proposal writing, that is a requirement for the final paper. So the title acknowledgement shall be positioned also at the topmost line of the page, similar to the abstract. 3 spaces shall be maintained between the title, acknowledgement, and the first line of the first paragraph. There's no prescribed line spacing for this section, but the font size and page alignment shall be maintained. The acknowledgement should also be limited also to 2 pages only. Preferably, the acknowledgement should be in pure English. You may use Filipino words, but use it sparingly. Use quotation if you're using Filipino or vernacular words. If possible, bold and underlined words or phrases shall not appear in the body of the acknowledgement. The acknowledgement may be written in the first or third person point of view. Pictures or figures of any kind, like your pictures or the people that you're thankful for, should not be included in the acknowledgement. It's not also appropriate to use colloquial words. So this is how a sample acknowledgement looks like. For the table of contents, you can format it in the same way as the abstract and the acknowledgement. For the table of contents, there are 2 columns to be created, where the first column corresponds to the items, and the second column corresponds to the page numbers. The first column shall contain the list of items to be included, and such column shall not contain any heading, although the content of the first column shall be flashed to the left margin. The second column shall contain the heading page in capitalized case. This heading shall be one space below the line containing the title, table of contents. There's no space between the first item in this list and the line containing the heading page. Dots or dashes connecting the items to their corresponding page numbers shall be omitted. Page number shall be listed under and centered relative to the heading page. All entries shall be double space in the table. Also, the headings and sections to be listed in the table of contents shall have the same case formatting as what is found and prescribed in the text. Major subsections shall be indented 1/2 inch to the right, reckoned from the main heading. Likewise, minor subsections shall be indented 1/2 inch to the right relative to the major subsection. Paragraph heading shall be indented 1/2 inch to the right relative to the minor subsection. Usually, the table of contents exceed 1 page, and in such case, the list shall be continued in succeeding pages, and the line containing the heading page shall still appear on each page. Yeah, how it looks like. This is how your table of contents should be formatted. So as you can see here, we have the first column containing the list of items found in your paper, and the second column which contains the page numbers where these are located. Only the second column has a heading page. The first column doesn't have any heading at all. You should also take note of the indentions for the major subsections, as you can see here, as well as the minor subsections. Also, it was emphasized that the way you formatted these items in your paper should also be the same way it's formatted here in the table of contents. So make sure to follow this, as well as the spacing, which is double space. For the list of tables, it's actually similar in similar way. You format it as the table of contents. So there's still 2 columns for the list of tables. So to give you an idea, so here are some example for the list of tables. It should be placed here in order, as you can see, and also for the list of figures. So all tables and figures found in your proposal or in your final paper shall also appear here in your list of tables and list of figures. As you can see here, the tables are formatted in a kind of way which will also be discussed in the succeeding slides. Now for the textual presentation. Here are some guidelines in the textual presentation. So as a general rule, the discussions in the main text, which, for example, the problem and its background, chapter 2, up to the summary conclusion recommendation, shall be written in the third person point of view. So you are discouraged from using first person point of view such as I or we. Use third person point of view such as the researchers or the authors or the proponents of this study. The first line of the paragraph shall be indented 1/2 inch to the right. The paragraph shall be aligned in both left and right margins. It means justified, and double space, as you can also read in the general guidelines. To have a neat presentation of ideas, unnecessary marks and symbols in paragraphs shall be avoided. An underscore or an underline shall also not be used when defining terms and when emphasizing. For the text structure, if possible, only 2 levels of subsection should be found. You have the major subsection and you also have the paragraph headings. The major subsections, for example, in chapter 1, you have subsections like the background of the study, the objectives of the study, the scope and limitations. So these are the major subsections. These shall be positioned on the left side of the page and with the first letter of all significant words capitalized. As you can see here, background capitalized, study also capitalized. The preferred main headings for the research paper correspond to the different chapters of the main text. These include the following: Chapter 1, Chapter 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the bibliography, and the appendix. Each chapter shall be started on a new page, regardless of the space left on the previous page. The main heading shall be positioned at the topmost line of the page, center align, and in uppercase and bold letters, except for the chapter number, say chapter 1. And there's no space between the chapter number and the main heading. So as you can see here, you have chapter 1, which is not capitalized. It's in a title case, and there's just a space between. Then you have the title of chapter 1, which is in uppercase format. So now that we're done with the textual presentation, we are now moving on to the table. To fully illustrate the format concerning table presentation, you can follow this structure, and this structure shall also be adapted all throughout your manuscript, your research proposal, your full paper, or your publication ready journal article. So you have here the first level heading, you have the second level heading, the third level heading, and you also have the row heading. And you can also see here minimal lines used in the structuring of the table. So this is how it looks like in a bigger form. So to give you guidelines in writing or structuring, your table shall not contain side boxes, as you can see in the previous illustration. They shall be presented with double solid lines as the top and also the bottom borders. So there are no other extra lines. So you should format your tables this way. The use of too many lines in the table should be avoided. Single solid line should be used to separate the different rows and to separate the headings from the entries. First level headings shall be in uppercase letters. Significant words in the second level heading shall have their first letter capitalized. All third level headings shall have lowercase letters except for proper nouns and acronyms. Dimensions and units are exceptions to this rule. They shall be presented in their proper formats and symbols enclosed in parentheses. For the table number and title, tables shall be numbered consistently and continuously, independent of the numbering of figures and the numbering equations. So there is a separate numbering for equations, separate numbering for figures, separate numbering for tables. Table numbers are composed of two numbers separated by a dot. The first number for a table represents the number of the chapter where the table belongs, while the second number corresponds to the number of the table as it appears in that particular chapter. The table title shall be preceded by the label table x.x, not tab.x.x, followed by a period. The title immediately follows after two spaces. Similarly, tables considered as appendix tables shall be continuously and consistently labeled as appendix table, because there are also tables that you will have to put in your appendix. So that's why they should be labeled as appendix table. The table's title shall be placed at the top of the table and shall be in sentence case. Only the first letter of the first word is capitalized and the whole title is followed by a period. A single space shall be maintained between the last line of the table title and the top double line border of the table. The table title shall be positioned relative to the table and not relative to the page. For consistency, the table title, including the label table x.x, shall be aligned to the left edge of the table. In any case, the table title shall not extend beyond the table's width. If the title exceeds the table's width, the title shall be cut off, and the remaining part is aligned to the start of the title, not the label, in a single space. So to illustrate these guidelines, so I have here an example how you could present your table. So you have here the table title. As you can see, the table title is in a title case. Only the first letter is capitalized. And the table follows the format table. Then you have the number first digit, which represents the chapter where this table is found, followed by a dot, and then the another number which represents in what chronological order this table appears in chapter 4. So it means that this table is found in chapter 4, and this is the sixth table in chapter 4. So that's what it means when we say table, when we use table for that 6. And then you maintain one space in from the title before you start the double solid line, as you can see here. And also below you have double solid line also, which demarcates the the end, the start and the end of that table. And also you can see here the first level heading is in capital letter. As you can see here, component, conventional, and solar aided are in capitalized case. For the second level heading, only the main words are capitalized, as you can see. And for the third level heading, which could be, for example, units, you should follow how it is really structured. So for example, kilowatt hour is written in this way, so we follow it in writing this part here in the third level heading. So take note, do not use too many lines in writing your table. Here another example. So this table is found in chapter 3, and it is the 8th table in chapter 3. So you can also see here the double solid line in the at the top and the bottom. And for the first level heading, it is capitalized case. And then you also have the row heading. And all of these are in centered alignment in their respective column and respective rows. Here another example. This is, say for example, for the instruments needed for experiment. So this is how you can format the table. So make use and take note and make use of these formatting guidelines in writing your table. For the format of the table entries, all entries including heading shall be single space within a cell and shall be centered vertically. So for that, this refers to those informations that are found in your tables. So they should be single space within a cell and shall be centered vertically. If possible, entries should also be centered horizontally. However, phrases are preferably flushed to the left margin. Consistency of values and entries shall be observed. In a column or row populated by numerical values, the number of decimal places shall be the same in each cell. So if you use 4 decimal places in one cell, you use it for the rest. So they should have the same uh, decimal places depending on your desired accuracy. Also, fractional and decimal values shall not be mixed in the same column or row. So it means that if you use decimal, you use it all throughout. If you use fraction, you use it all throughout. Do not mix them up. Units of different systems should also not be mixed up. So if you use SI units, you use it all throughout the table. If you use English unit, you use that unit all throughout. Do not mix SI units with English units because it's confusing. The values shall be converted from one system to another for consistency. This uh, guidelines. So as you can see here, you have the entries. They are aligned both vertically and horizontally in the cell, in their respective cell. And they have different decimal places, as you can also see. And the units are also consistent. For the table footnote and citation, they should be included in the table and shall be positioned below the bottom double line border, single space and flash to the left. So you have here the footnote. Say for example, you want to emphasize further what this table really means. just like this case here, where the hourly power consumption of different incubators using two methods of incubation is presented, the authors use the word asterisk, and this asterisk is further elaborated as a footnote. So you have here the footnote, which is placed just below the bottom double solid line without space, and it is written in alignment with the the table, not with the page. It should be in aligned with the table. So this asterisk here means values are obtained from experimental data for 10 days. So this is for the readers to understand that the values that can be found here are obtained from the data for 10 days. For table source from references, source shall be indicated below the bottom double line border or footnote if any, flashed to the left edge of the table and in italics. The source shall contain the author and the year of publication. Take note that when you copy tables from books or references, you should not snip you should not just copy paste that table and place that in your paper. You should not screenshot or take a picture of the table. You have to type it if you really want to present it as part of your paper. So when you do that, since the table is not your own, you have to cite it. So that's why we use this uh, structure in citing the source of that table. So for example, you have here the source for this table is Alboro et al. And the year of its publication. And these are in italicized style. For the table presentation in the text, tables can be presented after they are mentioned in the text, or they could be placed also as appendix tables. So the reason why you present table is because you mention them in the text. So that's why you should avoid writing the table when you don't mention yet that table in the text. Say they should be presented after when you mention them in the text. Table shall be positioned at the center of the page. They could be placed along with the text or could be on a separate page. If placed with the text, 3 spaces shall be maintained between the table title and the last line of the preceding text. Likewise, 3 spaces shall be provided between the bottom of the table and the first line of the succeeding text. So I have here an example. So you have here the text, the paragraph of your paper, and then you mention table x.x. So right after mentioning, or as you mention that, you have to present the table after. So do not put the table on a different page because it would be difficult now for the reader to scan through another page just to see that table. So as soon as you mention it in the text as part of your paragraph, you have to put the table right away. But before you can put it, you have to take note of the spacing before and after the table. So this is how you can present it when you present it with the text. So now that we have understood how to present the table, what about figure presentation? Similar in the same manner that you present your table. They should also be numbered consistently and continuously independent of the numbering of the tables and the numbering of the equations. More or less, they have the same format of the table. It's just that this time you are now using the word figure instead of using table. However, for the figure, the caption shall be placed at the bottom of the figure. Unlike the table, we represent it at the top. So you have here figure, which say for example, a photo from your experimental setup. So you presented it in your paper, But instead of putting the caption or the name of the figure at the top, you have to put now the caption or the title of the figure below the figure itself. And as you can see, you maintain also some space between the figure and the title of the figure. So this means that this figure is found in chapter 3, and this is the fourth figure found in your chapter 3. Here another example. Say for example, you are presenting the isometric view of your design. So you present first the figure and then followed by the figure title or caption. I have here another example when, say for example, you present the figure for your drawings. By the way, when you present drawings, it's also a good practice to ensure that when you present the general drawing or the overall drawing, you put dimension or you compare it, say for example, a person, so that the reader can visualize how your figure really looks like in actual. So you can present various views of your figure, just like this one. You present the top view. You may also present other views as needed, but do not present those views that are not really necessary. Just present the important views. Also take note that when you present drawings, you have to present first the overall drawings before presenting the subcomponents of the drawing. And also when you present dimensions, uh, unlike this one, in as much as possible, since it is already very impossible to measure, for example, 38.1 mm when you fabricate the machine, you have to take, you have to find way to present whole numbers, especially when you think that it's impossible to fabricate that decimal places. Like for example, this one, 203.71. So when you fabricate it, you will not actually fabricate that as 203.71, but perhaps 203 or 204, depending on the machinist. So to make your life easier, make it a whole number. For the figure, footnote, and citation, actually you can follow the same formatting. For example, you have here a figure. So you have here the some footnote. You have here the footnote, which is the note, which is in italicized, followed by the note itself. And if you copy that figure from another book or in the internet, you have to cite the source. So do not just copy and paste figures and then use it as your own. That's considered as plagiarism. So when you copy it, when you use it, you have to cite it. That's why you have here source in italicized format also. How about charts? For charts, the most appropriate chart shall be selected to show the relationship between variables. Say for example, when you want to show trend or what happened to the data across time, then you may use line chart. Or when you want to compare values, you can use bar charts. Or when you want to show the contribution of each value to the total, you can use pie charts. And there are other visualization tool or charts that you can actually use. So you don't have to be limited just with the line chart, bar chart, or the pie chart. But make sure that when you use them, you use the most appropriate one. You can check out Google to help you which chart is the most appropriate when you want to present data. Consistency in the format of graphs shall also be observed. All axis label, axis titles, and legend titles shall be formatted to Arial font style. Axis titles shall be in title case. The first letter of all significant words is capitalized. Appropriate units enclosed in parentheses should also follow. In an axis with numerical labels, the number of decimal places shall be the same in each interval depending on the desired accuracy. Fractional and decimal values shall not be mixed on the same axis. Preferably, grid lines should be omitted. Legends should be positioned in vacant spaces in the plot area. If the plot area is grounded, the legends may be placed outside the plot area. Preferably also, bar and pie charts should be shaded using hatch lines instead of colors. This is to ensure that the variations in the charts are still visible even when your figure is printed in black and white ink. Equations and R-squared values, which are usually included in scatter plot, should be positioned as close as possible to the line or points that they describe. So I have here an example. Since charts are actually basically figures, so that's why we format the title as a figure. So, but this one is a chart. So as you can see, for the axis title, we follow Arial font size. And for the unit, since these axis titles may represent values with units, the units should be positioned inside the parentheses. As you can see here, kilojoules per kilogram, and they are also in each relevant words should be also be capitalized, just like actual and the word heating value are in capitalized. And also for the for the spacing of the of the units or the numbers, the values here, they should be equally spaced. And these are squared values or equations which describes this line basically for the scatter plot should be as near as possible to this line that this equation represents. So this is how your pie chart can also be represented. So you are discouraged from using colors because later on when you print it in black and white, this color will actually uh, cannot be represented as it is. So that's why you have to use shaded format, just like this one. So for the figure presentation in the text, you can present it in the same way that you present your tables. So you have the text, and then you mention the figure, and then that's the time that you put in the figure. And then you have 3 spaces before you can start again discussing about anything that you want to describe. Now that we have finished the figure presentation, we're now moving on to equation presentation. The equation format follows this pattern. Equations between quantities are preferred over equations between numerical values. Equations shall be expressed in their mathematically correct form. The variable shall be presented by letters or symbols, the meanings of which are explained in connection with the equation. All the terms in the equation shall be italicized. However, the definition of terms shall be presented in the normal format. As far as possible, symbols having more than one label of subscript or superscript shall be avoided. Each term in the equation, whether a constant or a variable, shall be defined after the equation is presented. For variables requiring a specific unit, the unit shall be enclosed in parentheses and shall be placed at the end of the definition. The definition of terms shall be introduced by the word where, followed by an enumeration of the terms with their corresponding definitions. The word where shall be flashed to the left margin of the page and shall be positioned 3 spaces below the last line of the equation. The list of terms shall be single space. Each term shall be indented 5 spaces to the right reckoned from the word where. How it looks like. So you have here an example how you can present equation in your paragraph. So you have here, your equation is indented, as you can see here, and then it is also, each symbol is also italicized, as you can see. And then you have to put equation number. So the equation number is more or less the same as how you format the table and the figure number. So this means that this equation is found in chapter 3, and this is the first equation in chapter 3. So the word equation x dot x should be enclosed in a parenthesis. And it is indented to the rightmost part of your paper. And in 3 spaces below that, you have the word where you enumerated or defined each of the symbols in your equation. So you have here the symbol R means the rate of deflection, followed by the parenthesis, which represents the unit for this rate of deflection. So in this way, it would be easier for the reader to understand what that equation means and what are the equations that you use when using that equation. So just like I said, then the equation is actually formatted in the same ways how you format tables and figures. For presenting equation in the text, they can be presented after also they are mentioned in the text. So once you mention equation x dot x in your paragraph, then you have to put the equation right away. Equation shall be indented 1/2 inch to the right if placed within the text. 3 spaces shall be maintained between the first line of the equation and the last line of the preceding text. Likewise, the 3 spaces shall also be provided between the last defined term of the equation and the first line of the succeeding text. If the equation is too long, it shall be cut off in such a way that it retains its correct form and meaning. For example, you have here paragraph discussing uh, several things. And then in this paragraph, there is a mention of equation 3.1. Just like the rate of deflection of the spring is given in equation 3.1. So 3 spaces below that, that's the time that you will put in the equation, the definition of each term of the equation. And then you have spaces before you can write again the next part, which is perhaps the where you substitute the value for that equation. So this is very important later on when you present calculations of your design or when there are some calculations involved or formula, then you have to use this format in presenting the equations that you use for your calculations. Also take note that when you present equations, use word editor. So in your Word, Microsoft Word, there's actually a word editor there. So do not just simply write R and then equal sign. You have to click the equation editor and then you type the equation there so that it will be formatted in this way also. Now that we're done with the equation presentation, we're now moving on to the page. For the pagination, preliminary pages shall contain lowercase Roman numeral page numbers. So take note of that. Page number shall be positioned at the bottom of each page, center aligned, and placed 1/2 inch from the bottom edge of the page. The title page and the approval sheet shall have imaginary page numbers. So it means that there should be no page numbers found in the title page and the approval sheet, though they really have page numbers, but imaginary. So that's how you can represent pagination. For the appendix, the items that are included in the appendices, such as appendix tables or figures, shall be formatted in the same way that they are governed by the guidelines for the presentation of the text, tables, figures, and sections. For appendix letter, number, and title, the appendices shall be lettered chronologically starting from appendix A. The heading appendix and the letter shall be positioned at the topmost line of the page, center aligned, and in title case. The appendix title shall be positioned at the center of the page below the heading in uppercase and bold letters. If the appendix title is composed of 5 or more words, it shall be arranged in an inverted pyramid form in a single space. Each peer appendix shall be started on a new page, regardless of the space left on the previous page. Now we're moving on to references presentation. For the citation and referencing for engineering, we're actually using the IEEE format. So for the reference guide in using the IEEE, you can actually go to Google and just simply uh, put in the words IEEE reference guide, and this reference guide will come up. So you have to follow this reference guide when citing the works of other researchers in your paper. Again, take note that when you use the ideas of others in your paper, you have to mention them. You have to give credit to these researchers. And we give credit to them using this. And also take note that this will be detected later on when you do the Turnitin report. So there's a software when you just plagiarize, you just copy and paste it without citing them, without paraphrasing what they said, it will actually be detected by the Turnitin. So to avoid that hassle, just use proper citing reference, citing format, and also paraphrase. So in this current slide, you can see how you can cite references in text and also reference within a reference and so on and so forth. So for the style, that that guide, the IEEE reference guide, also provides the style for referencing them in the bibliography, for books, and for other sources of information and literature. This lecture on the formatting guidelines for your research paper will equip you and prepare you later on as you write your project proposal, your full research paper, when you write your publication ready article, and hopefully later on also when you become researcher in your own research fields. So thank you for listening. Feel free to share this lecture. Don't forget also to subscribe to this channel to support this if you like what uh, this channel is doing.